My name is Reed. When I was born, my mother was struck by lightning on her way to the hospital while she was in labor. She gave birth to me right before she died, a strange baby. My skin was snow white, and I didn't have a single hair on my body. My father looked at me as if I were a monster.
That's not my son.
I couldn't understand what he was saying, but the look of disgust in his eyes pierced through me like a knife. Maybe I sensed it somehow, and I started crying loudly. Doctors ran tests on my brainwaves. The entire page was covered in dense, continuous activity. That meant I was born with extraordinary brain power, but my father couldn't accept me. He abandoned me. It was my grandfather who took me in. Because of how I looked, I was locked in the basement for 18 years. 18 years later, my grandfather passed away. A sheriff came to the house with the director of a welfare institution saying they wanted to help me. They had heard I had never interacted with the outside world and suspected I had turned into some kind of savage. They carefully opened the basement door, but when they came downstairs, they saw a clean and tidy space. Nothing like the messy rumors. I curled up in a corner, silent. The director knelt down, reached out her hand, and said softly,
"Come on. Nobody's gonna hurt you. It's all right. Give me your hand. Come on."
I stood up and walked out from the darkness. The two of them were stunned when they saw me. My skin was pure white, my eyes had a pinkish hue, and I had no hair. I told them my name was Reed and that I had never been to school. But the female director noticed that I spoke with clarity and composure, nothing like an uneducated person. She walked to the wall, randomly pulled a deep literary book from the shelf, and asked, "You like this one too?" I didn't answer directly. I just asked her to flip to any page.
216.
I recited that page from beginning to end. She was shocked. I told her that I had memorized every book down here, word for word. She looked around the basement and saw thousands of books on 4 shelves. That's when she realized I was a genius. But what she didn't know was that my exceptional memory was just one of many abilities. They decided to take me out of there. For the first time in my life, I stepped out of the basement. As we neared a crowd, something strange happened. Every police car siren suddenly blared, and the walkie-talkies crackled with static. Even stranger, one officer looked up and saw a whole row of lightning rods installed on the roof. The coroner later found that although my grandfather had died of natural causes, his body showed signs of electrical burns. The director took me to the welfare center. The moment I got out of the car, I drew everyone's attention.
What the hell is that?
The place was full of homeless boys, rough, aggressive, always picking on the weak. With my unusual appearance, I naturally became their next target. They stared at me with curiosity and cruelty, like I was some sort of freak. Finally, one of them couldn't hold back. A bully, still eating, led his gang over. He started mocking my bald head and appearance, showing no respect. I ignored him, but he escalated, grabbing my tray and pulling a spoon from his pocket, demanding I hang it from my nose to humiliate me. Everyone watched, entertained. I took the spoon. He grinned smugly, but he had no idea who he was dealing with. I rubbed the spoon and stood it upright on the table. In the next second, all the metal forks and spoons in the cafeteria flew toward it. Everyone was frozen in fear. Then, the last spoon rose from a tray and walked across the table on its own. Under everyone's stunned gaze, it slid forward. At that moment, the bully's grin vanished. Yes, that was my second ability, magnetism. I used that power to diffuse the humiliation without hurting anyone. The next day, the director took me for a checkup. After confirming I had no physical issues, she gave me a pair of blue contact lenses and sent me to school. She said she hoped I'd get an education and integrate into society, but she didn't expect trouble on the very first physics class. The teacher brought an electrical device and said it would display a clear photo when the switch was flipped. In the corner of the room, no one noticed how restless I was. The paper clip on my desk suddenly flew off. Then my pen started spinning on its own, like it was being controlled. I quickly pressed it down, but the next moment, a bolt of electricity shot across the classroom, straight into me. Then came another, even stronger one. Electricity lifted me off the ground. I hovered in midair. This was my third ability, absorbing electric current. Everyone was petrified. The teacher acted fast and smashed the machine, finally cutting the power. I was rushed to the hospital. Doctors examined me and found I was completely unharmed. When I returned to the welfare center, a room full of experts was waiting for me. It turned out my IQ test results were beyond their understanding, but I wasn't happy at all because I could see in their eyes there wasn't a trace of admiration, only fear and disgust. I'd seen that look too many times. I didn't want to answer any of their questions. I just wanted to go home, to that familiar basement, but no one would let me. At that moment, I finally let my emotions explode. The TV flickered wildly, watches spun out of control, light bulbs blinked erratically. I said just one thing, then turned, and left. A few days later, the school held a party. A girl came up to me. She was the only one in school who didn't treat me like an outcast. I was thrilled and we started talking, but before long, her father showed up. He grabbed my collar and hurled insults, telling me a freak to stay away from his daughter. The director rushed over to stop him, but the man spat out one final threat and dragged his daughter away. I stood frozen, heart in shreds, because my only friend had left me too. The director tried to comfort me, saying she was my friend, but when I heard that, I couldn't hold it in anymore. Compared to the hypocritical humans who rejected me, I preferred the company of animals. I walked into the woods, placed my hands on the ground. Soon, small animals came running from the leaf piles, but I didn't expect the bullies to be hunting in that forest. The bully aimed a gun at me. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out in the distance. It was a chubby officer. He had just shot a deer. Proudly, he said, right in the heart, "It won't feel a thing." I slowly walked over and knelt beside the dying deer. I placed one hand gently on it. Then I reached out with the other and grabbed the officer. A surge of electricity flowed through us both. In the next second, the pain of the dying deer surged into the officer's body. He screamed in agony and collapsed, convulsing. The pain of dying tore through him. This was my fourth ability, empathy transference. He fell to his knees, clutching my hand like he had endured 1,000 tortures, and I, the transmitter, felt the pain too. But in my heart, there was only compassion. Since then, that officer never hunted again. When the sheriff heard what happened, he came to me. He said his wife had been paralyzed for years, unable to move or speak. Now she was nearing the end. Doctors said she was in constant pain, but no one knew why she still clung to life. Looking at the woman he loved suffering, the sheriff asked me for help. He wanted to know what was keeping her here. I went to her bedside, gently placed my hand on her forehead, and listened to her heart. It turned out she couldn't let go of their son. The sheriff and his son had a terrible relationship for years. She feared that after she was gone, the two of them would be completely estranged. She wanted them to reconcile. And just like that, she quietly passed away in his arms. Her son came after hearing the news. Seeing his father in tears, he understood everything. Choking up, he finally said what he had buried for years. Dad, father and son embraced. I stood to the side watching, full of envy. I thought, maybe it's time for me to go home. The next day, I returned to the welfare center to pack up and leave this place that never felt like mine. The director looked at me and sighed. She didn't try to stop me, but she didn't expect that right outside, the bullies were waiting. The bullies snatched my hat, tore my clothes, and hurled insults. I suppressed every emotion. Then, a lightning bolt split the sky. Their necklaces and earrings began to vibrate uncontrollably. I finally snapped. The bully was blasted backward by electricity, lying motionless, no heartbeat. The others were terrified. I walked over step by step. I turned my hands into defibrillators and pressed them to his chest. Electric arcs surged through me one after another until he woke up. Even though he bullied me, I chose to save him because I didn't want to become like them. After that, I returned to my childhood home. I opened the door to find the place empty. I went into the basement, also bare. I sat in a dark corner, the only place I still felt safe and deeply alone. Just then, the director found me. She looked at me, full of guilt, and apologized. She said she regretted taking me away without giving me a real home. She said this damp, dark place wasn't meant for a beautiful child like me. Suddenly, the basement door opened. The physics teacher had come to pick her up. In that moment, for the first time, I felt warmth. We stepped outside together, only to find the sheriff and his team had arrived. They were here to investigate and take someone in for questioning. But when the sheriff and I locked eyes, he felt compassion for the first time. He threw his radio to the ground and let me go. At that moment, thunder rumbled in the sky. I looked to the distance, sensing something. I had always feared lightning, but this time, I ran toward the storm. I opened my arms and ran freely beneath the clouds. The storm felt me too. A bolt of lightning shot down and connected with me. I kept running faster and faster. In that moment, I let go of all the ridicule, rejection, and pain. My body lit up as I ran toward the clouds, like I had found my true home. A flash of light, and I vanished from the world. Some say I was an angel. 18 years ago, a bolt of lightning brought me to this world. May all kindness in this world be met with gentleness.